Hi, welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Markets. I'm Mark Granville, Senior Director at ICMA and Head of Education and Training. And today I'm talking to Katie from IWN. Welcome, Katie. Maybe you'd like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mark. So I'm Katie Kelly. I'm a Senior Director at ICMA and I run the ICMA Women's Network as well.
Thanks, Katie. Well, let's start. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your association with the IWN and your career in capital markets to date.
Sure. Okay. So together with colleagues around about 10 years ago, we set up the IWN as a forum in which, to discuss the issues that women face in their career paths. We'd all had experiences that shaped the need for the network, but one of the most striking things I think we found back then was the lack of senior female women in financial services and the lack of senior leaders, female leaders, which then prompted us to ask the question, why was that the case? And it actually had been the same in my former career when I was a transactions lawyer in private practice, but I'll come back to that in a second. So at the time, I think conventional wisdom suggested to us that actually it was the women's situations which didn't actually suit the career choices. So, women at a certain stage of their lives or at a certain age, and it was felt like the demands of work, the long hours, the pressure, etc., weren't suitable for women in that situation. But I think it then soon became clear that it wasn't the women's situation which was the problem. It was the infrastructure that was not there to support them in their choices. And so it was more like the inflexibility of the model at the time as opposed to the women's situation. So we set out to try and look at this from a different kind of approach. It inspired us to establish the Women's Network in order to provide a safe space where women could talk about their challenges that they faced in their careers and to share their experiences and try to sort of build, compassion and empathy among both themselves and their employers. So we set out to help women, find the confidence to have those conversations, to hone their leadership skills, to facilitate access to mentorship and support within their firms and externally, and also to help them expand their professional networks with the networking that we offer as part of the Women's Network.
So, Katie, what does the network aim to achieve across ICMA's membership?
I'd have to say that, for a start, the network has been up and running for 10 years now, and I think undeniably a lot has changed in the last 10 years. A lot of progress has been made in gender equality, but I think it's really important at this juncture to stress that we can't and shouldn't yield to shifts in sentiment regarding, gender equality across the piece in financial services. And I think that recent rhetoric will not change the fact that gender equality is really important. Diversity leads to a very positive outcome, which is an absolute given, and it's well known and well understood. I also think that we can't assume that gender equality has been achieved in financial services. We're nowhere near it. There's still a lot of work to do. And actually, an interesting report recently from Deloitte says that at the current rate of change, gender parity on boards at a global level won't be reached until 2038. And at a CEO level, globally, it won't be reached until 2111. That's 86 years away. So that's quite a sobering thought. So I stress again that, gender equality has never been more important in spite of the sort of environment in which we find ourselves. So we must keep our foot on the accelerator. So when it comes to your question about, what do we aim to achieve throughout our membership? Well, as I say, it's a crucial platform for raising awareness of gender equality issues and deficiencies. It's a crucial platform for sharing open exchanges and experiences and to address the challenges head on. So the network approaches the challenges from two different angles. The first is looking at the infrastructure of firms to see whether they are supportive of gender equality and accelerating women's careers. And the second is looking at what women can do to actually help themselves. because, you know, there's an awful lot that people can be doing to help themselves. And it's all with the aim of encouraging and supporting women at all stages of their careers. So within the network, we host, you know, industry discussions. We look at the infrastructure of not just firms, but also society as a whole. But we also provide loads of practical workshops, and that comes back to the self-help issue. We have practical workshops on things like how to, you know, become more confident, speak confidently, manage difficult situations, how to use social media and optimize your personal brand better, how to become, you know, ready for interviews and ready for the next step in career progression. So it's a whole mixture of things, and we get a lot of engagement from members, letting us know how we can help them. So it's a constant program of, you know, enrichment and workshops, etc., to ensure that we are doing what we can, what small piece we can, to help with the gender equality in financial services.
You mentioned there a lot of the practical workshops you deliver, so which is a form of training, right? And obviously something very close to my own heart. We offer a lot of training ourselves, more structured, you know, accredited training, but training nonetheless. From your perspective, why is it so important, or why is training of any description so important in the development of careers in the capital markets?
Well, obviously, it's crucial to the job to understand, you know, the nuances of all the products, and in a fast-paced, fast-changing landscape, you know, you've obviously got to keep yourself up to speed on developments. But it's also, I think, the practical aspects that help to bring some of the concepts and principles that you understand to life. So I think that's really, really helpful, especially with the education that we offer, because a lot of it is delivered by experts who actually practice the area and can talk through, you know, some of the more the things that might seem existential to a learner, but really bring it alive when the training is delivered. I mean, obviously, the training is a great tool for bridging that gap between the principle and the actual application of the principle. It's incredibly intellectually stimulating and empowering to have the kind of knowledge that, you know, some of the training courses can provide in a specialist area. And it also just equips individuals to be able to grab opportunities that they might not have otherwise been able to do because of the different aspects and the different areas that they're picking up from the practical training.
Have you personally benefited from training through your career?
Well, back to the point I made earlier, I was a private practice lawyer in capital markets transactions for a long time before I joined ICMA. And obviously you get a lot of training in legal concepts, in analysis and problem solving, as well as in things like drafting and attention to detail. So those fundamental building blocks of training that I received as a lawyer were absolutely essential to my career. They really were. And, you know, I've been lucky enough in my position at ICMA to be able to continue with a lot of that, developing a lot of the training that I received. Elsewhere, I represent the issuer communities at ICMA in primary markets, and I benefited hugely from a course on asset and liability management, quite recently in fact. It totally illuminated the structure and operation of a bank's balance sheet for me. I mean, as a lawyer, you're not necessarily subject to that kind of really detailed technical knowledge. You know, you're doing the transactions on the basis of certain parameters, and that's where it really ends. But the course was super helpful because it gave me a lot of technical understanding. It gave me a really rounded view of bank issuance on the bank side, and applied market expertise, which helps in driving the decisions within a bank. So again, you know, understanding exactly how a deal is done and why, and what the commercial and business drivers are for it, are really useful and really help me then to understand the concerns and the challenges that my members face. And I don't think I would have been able to get that from, you know, just doing my day job. I really needed something a lot more technical and practical to be able to get that understanding.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So you've benefited from training, and you espouse the benefits of training more widely. How do you think professional training can support women's career progression in what has traditionally been, as you alluded to earlier, a male-dominated sort of industry?
That's a very good question. Well, apart from the intellectual challenge and stimulation, and obviously the benefit you get from learning about a particular area, it's really good for giving reassurance to an individual and to build their confidence in a particular area, specialism. It gives people a competitive edge, I think. There's absolutely no doubt about that. When it comes to the confidence, I think that a lack of confidence and a fear of stepping outside the comfort zone is holding a lot of people back, not just women, but obviously it tends to be women a lot of the time. And it holds people back from self-promotion, it holds them back from career progression, for going for something where they're not 100% sure that they're fully qualified to do it. And all these sort of confidences come from just having really in-depth knowledge, understanding, and practical experience. So women often talk themselves out of career development for various reasons. I think that education could be hugely additive for that. And it means that we become part of our own solution when we're actually partaking in the education, especially when you can choose exactly what it is that you want to do. I think it's also really good for positive profiling, for building gravitas among peers, among seniors, or those senior to us rather. So it's really great for getting visibility as well. And who doesn't like to be able to show off on LinkedIn that they've just achieved a certain qualification or a certain grade? It puts you into a different kind of level, I think, when you've got a bit more additional education under your belt.
Yeah, it's an interesting comment about confidence. I was speaking to someone earlier. We work with IFC on a lot of sustainable finance training, and particularly in emerging markets. And one of the key takeaways from IFC, this person I was talking to, was the confidence that it built in participants in this training. And in that way, this confidence directly leads to something like, an additional 20 billion in green bond issuance over a few years from emerging markets that might not have happened. So that confidence is incredibly important. So I really like that answer.
And on a more micro level, you got the confidence to go in and be able to go for a job that you might not have felt equipped to do. And that's going to translate into maybe not 20 billion, but hopefully an increase in people's salaries. Exactly. Because, they're aiming for higher. And, from my own experience, and I'm sure everybody has had this, you can try to wing it. And you just end up looking silly. But when you've got a little bit of education and expertise and knowledge under your belt, it really shows.
Okay, so confidence is important, obviously, but so are skills, right? And what do you think the next skills are going to be, the next skills requirement are going to be for capital market professionals? I mean,
obviously the technical knowledge is important, but often you can acquire that on the job or you can acquire it through education. I think adaptability is key. I think that I have to go into jobs with skill sets that are really transferable, because I feel like, we're no longer necessarily so siloed within jobs. And so a variety of skill sets is going to be very important. It will also help individuals to withstand market forces and the changes within the markets, such as AI, which is something that we just can't, ignore, and it's very fast paced. So we've got to try and outsmart AI as well. I think the time when an individual could present themselves for a role as a function, like a lawyer or whatever, or pigeonholed with a particular moniker, I think that's maybe changing. I think now people need to present themselves as a bundle of skills, and start approaching their careers slightly differently, because just because you've been a lawyer for 10, 15 years, whatever it is, doesn't mean that that's all that you're capable of being. So I think lateral thinking about skills is very, very important. And obviously a lot of those skills can be achieved through various solutions, including education. But I think also that a continuous learning and curious mindset is really important. You can never know too much, there's always something else to learn. And as somebody not more seasoned in my career, I'm learning so much, and it tends to be around sort of the tech areas, the fintech and all the different sort of digitalization solutions. For me, I'm just starting out on that journey, but there's a long, long way to go.
Okay, Katie, so final question. How do you think that industry bodies like ICMA can ensure that the talent pipeline is inclusive and skilled and is ready for the challenges ahead?
Well, there are a number of solutions. Obviously, there's our education offerings, which obviously we're talking about. But I think also, we've got such a wealth of expertise and know-how that runs through all of our various working groups at ICMA. And we do have channels for people to be able to engage with that expertise. It doesn't just stop at the working group level. So we have obviously our quarterly report, which is available on the website for free. We have the Women's Network, we have our mentoring platform and our future leaders. And these are all good sort of segues into what's going on at ICMA. We also have so much know-how and knowledge available on our website and many publications that we do. So I think in terms of keeping skilled up and keeping up to date, there are those kind of options. In terms of being inclusive and skilled elsewhere, I think it's up to the individual really to continue their training in some pastoral areas as well, such as diversity, equity and inclusion. And as I mentioned at the start, this is not something that we should be rolling over on just because of the current climate. I think it's really something that everybody should be engaging with and making sure that they are doing whatever they can, even at a very low level within their firms, to make sure that they're working within a very inclusive environment. And again, as I said earlier, inclusivity and diversity can only have positive outcomes. So that's definitely a takeaway for the audience today.
Katie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for asking me.
Excellent. And thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more about ICMA's different social networks like IWN or indeed Future Leaders, please visit our website. And if you're interested in learning more about the training that we deliver, you can visit us on icmagroup.org/education. Thanks very much.